There are moments when silence speaks louder than any protest, louder than any accusation, louder than any denial. In the days after Charlie Kirk was killed in broad daylight, the country reacted exactly as expected. Supporters mourned. Critics paused. Social media flooded with tributes, prayers, and outrage. But while the internet was loud, one place remained eerily quiet. His family, no public demands, no press conferences, no visible pressure on authorities. And as weeks turned into months, people began asking a question that made many uncomfortable. Why weren't Charlie Kirk's parents demanding answers? Now, with alleged emails, reported bank records, and claims of massive financial payouts circulating online, that question has evolved into something far darker. Was grief respected, or was it quietly compensated? Before diving into allegations, it's important to separate speculation from fact. Charlie Kirk was a polarizing public figure. Whether admired or criticized, his influence was undeniable. His sudden death sent shockwaves through political circles, media outlets, and activist communities. In the immediate aftermath, attention turned to Turning Point USA, the organization most closely associated with his career and public identity. What followed was an unprecedented surge of financial activity. Public statements from figures affiliated with TPUSA claimed that more than $100 million had been raised following Charlie's death, separate from an additional $40 million reportedly generated during a high-profile event at Mar-a-Lago that brings the total figure often cited to approximately $140 million. These numbers were shared openly. They were not hidden. They were presented as proof of overwhelming support, but they also became the foundation for growing unease in most cases. Fundraising tied to tragedy unfolds slowly. There is time for mourning, time for reflection, time for families to breathe. But critics allege that TPUSA moved at a speed that felt unnatural. Within 24 hours of Charlie's death, merchandise reportedly appeared on the organization's website. Shirts bearing his image, religious phrases, slogans framing his death as martyrdom. Within a week, more designs followed. Some featured his birth and death years. Others used scripture. One design allegedly included Charlie alongside his family, complete with symbolic imagery. To supporters, this was honoring a legacy. To critics, it felt premature, almost transactional, and the timing became impossible to ignore. In tragedies of this scale, families often become public figures overnight. They speak at vigils. They demand transparency. They challenge inconsistencies. But Charlie Kirk's parents chose a different path. They appeared briefly at the funeral, then retreated completely. Social media accounts were removed. Public engagement stopped. No interviews followed. At first, most people respected the decision. Grief is personal. Privacy is valid. But as allegations began circulating, silence started to feel less like self-protection and more like avoidance, especially when inconsistencies in official narratives went unchallenged. As details surrounding Charlie's death circulated, online commentators noted discrepancies, timelines that didn't align, details that shifted, explanations that felt incomplete, yet no public pressure emerged from the people closest to him. No demands for independent investigations, no calls for transparency, no insistence on releasing full details. This absence became the breeding ground for speculation, because when questions go unanswered, people begin asking why no one is asking them. The narrative shifted when Candace Owens publicly challenged TPUSA's version of events. According to her claims, important facts were being minimized. Internal pressure existed to maintain a specific narrative. Dissenting voices were discouraged. She alleged that the organization was more focused on message control than truth-seeking. The reaction was swift and hostile. Former allies criticized her motives. TPUSA publicly dismissed her claims. She was accused of exploiting tragedy for personal gain. For a moment, it appeared the story would end there. But then something unexpected happened. Online forums and independent journalists began circulating claims from an alleged insider. According to these reports, internal documents had been altered or removed. Evidence relating to Charlie's death was suppressed. Certain individuals were financially incentivized to remain silent. None of these claims have been verified by courts or authorities, but the sheer volume of allegations reignited interest. And for the first time, Charlie Kirk's parents became central to the discussion. The most explosive claim circulating online is this: that Charlie Kirk's parents allegedly received a multi-million-dollar payout, commonly cited as $15 million, connected to post-death fundraising activities. There is no confirmed documentation publicly validating this claim, but critics argue that behavior matters as much as paperwork. They point to immediate withdrawal from public view, no visible pursuit of independent answers, no objections to monetization to skeptics. It appeared less like coincidence and more like compensation. Online investigators began mapping timelines, merchandise launches, fundraising spikes, public statements. They asked questions TPUSA declined to answer publicly. Who controlled the revenue streams? How were proceeds allocated? Who received direct payments? Despite repeated calls for transparency, detailed financial breakdowns were never released. That refusal fueled further suspicion because organizations confident in their integrity usually welcome audits. Attention soon turned to a GoFundMe launched. Shortly after Charlie's death, at the time, donations poured in without hesitation. But as allegations mounted, critics revisited the campaign. They questioned who established it, where the funds ultimately landed. Again, no wrongdoing has been proven, but unanswered questions kept stacking. Unlike Charlie's parents, Irka did not disappear. She pushed back publicly. In interviews, she dismissed critics aggressively. She framed accountability demands as attacks. She labeled dissenters enemies. When asked directly about Candace Owens' accusations, her response was brief, sharp, and chilling. Stop. For many viewers, it didn't feel like reassurance. It felt like a line drawn in the sand. As controversy grew, TPUSA largely avoided detailed engagement. Instead, they continued selling merchandise, hosted events as scheduled, framed criticism as conspiracy. When a TPUSA affiliated host finally addressed the issue, blame was redirected entirely toward Candace Owens. She was challenged to debates. Her credibility was attacked. The money trail remained unaddressed. To critics, this felt like classic deflection. No court has ruled on these claims. No authority has confirmed the alleged emails. No verified bank records have been released, but something undeniable remains: silence for a movement built on truth and accountability. Refusing to answer basic questions has proven disastrous because silence creates a vacuum and speculation rushes in to fill it. This controversy is no longer about ideology, it's about trust. Supporters who once believed without question are now uneasy. Donors are asking for transparency. Observers are demanding clarity, not because accusations were proven, but because they were never properly addressed. So we return to the question at the center of it all. Did Charlie Kirk's parents choose privacy, or were they given a reason not to speak? Was Turning Point USA honoring a fallen figure, or capitalizing on tragedy before scrutiny could catch up? Until clear answers are provided, this story will continue to grow, not because of conspiracies, but because of silence. And in moments like these, silence is never neutral. Truth doesn't fear questions. Transparency doesn't avoid scrutiny. And justice doesn't ask people to stop basking.